Hello, my name is Maylin Elizabeth Hammer, and this is my presentation for the subject CNS 5037 Neurophilosophy for the fall of 2012. And the subject I have chosen to delve into for my final presentation is neurotheology. What is neurotheology? Neurotheology is a new field in neuroscience which is attempting to study the correlations between religious experiences and our brain functioning and our bodies. It's attempting to show where in our brain is God, where in our brain does the experience of God show up. And the method these scientists are using is brain scan technology through MRI machines, which they put subjects in and tell them to pray. Subjects that have been praying for several years to pray in that way in the machine, and meditation. People who are very sufficient in meditation to meditate, and then they see what parts of the brain are lighting up. Also, there's been done studies of people who have taken psychedelic substances that they believe impersonate mystical experiences, such as LSD, psilocybin, and peyote. And so these studies have been done in the attempt to somehow explain the nature of religion by pointing to the fact that there are particular brain structures that are happening, that are lighting up when these experiences happen. So then we can ask ourselves, what is actually God, the Almighty, the Divine? And the answer can be different for many people. And the experience of God is most definitely a subjective experience. Everyone has their own encounter with what they assume is the divine, and that is only, like, I think that is we can compare it to the way we, for instance, experience love. Let's say everyone probably has their own experience of love, so even though you can point to the same neurological basis for love happening in our brain. So, back to the many ways that neurotheologists have researched the people who are having spiritual experiences. And there are many paths and methods to doing this. And when people are praying, the neurotheologists have seen that it's a focused concentration in the areas in the frontal lobe in our brains. And this is the area correlated to concentration, focus, higher cognitive functions, and that there is less activity in the parietal lobe, which is related to more sensory stimulation, sensory input. And the same has been shown with meditation. There's an intense focused attention in the frontal lobe, and the parietal lobe, which I said was related to sensory information, is completely blacked out. So that's an interesting factor which has been shown when the people are meditating and having what can be called a oneness experience, where they experience a oneness with all of creation, and they see, for instance, a light and merge with that light, that there is no more sensory information being put in. It's only, and mostly in the right temporal lobe, which and the right hemisphere is more correlated with emotions and wholeness. So that can explain why these feelings, why these why the sensory experience is experienced as being in one with all of creation. And another interesting thing they have researched is someone speaking in tongues where they measure their bodily functions and their brain correlates. And this is the direct opposite of what is the fact with prayer and meditation. It's more when they're speaking in tongues and assumingly having God speak through them. It's more of an activity in the parietal lobe and less of our concentration and more higher cognitive functioning present. I found that quite interesting. So with the psychedelic substances such as peyote, psilocybin and LSD, it's been shown an increased activation in the serotonin system. There's an increased release of the neurotransmitter serotonin, and which has made the neurotheologians speculate on whether the serotonin system is the main system that activates mystical experiences. And another thing that has been done research on is Mr. Michael Persinger, who has created a so-called God helmet, because he calls an experience with God, he says the most essential experience of God is the experience of presence. He calls that the God experience, the presence experience. So he created a helmet, an old motorcycle helmet, which stimulated the right temporal lobe in order for people to have that felt sense of presence, and measured and according to him 80% had a God experience when he had magnetically stimulated their right front temporal lobe with this God helmet. So they also put people who have previously had near-death experiences in the MRI machine and asked them to relive their near-death experience in the machine, and when they did this, it shows the same neurological correlates that has been shown in monks and nuns that have been meditating and praying for years and years and years, and it appears that the near-death experience has put some switch in the brain, is what one neuroscientist called Andrew Newberg suggests, that now allows them to have more access to spiritual experiences on a daily basis. And we can ask, why do we have these spiritual experiences? Why? According to neurotheologians, it seems that it's in our brain structure. Our brain structure is put together in a way that allows us to have these religious experiences. And Mr. Michael Persinger, the creator of the God helmet, suggests that its evolutionary value is to help us with the terror of personal extinction, and so it's a comforting device to the horrors of our natural environment. I suggest that it's a way to help us create more meaning in our existence, have us appreciate the wonders of our universe, and let us know that it's not all about what we can see, hear, touch and feel right now. It's so much broader than that, and to make it, and at the same time, by knowing there's something else, whether it's inside or outside, makes us appreciate what we have right here much more. And so let me see. So does God lose any value by being researched in the laboratory with neurological measurements? And I don't think so. I think it's just as it is with religion in general. It's a matter of interpretation. Atheists can look at this research and say, oh, God is just in your brain, that's all it is, it's not real. But a person of faith can point at the same measurements and say, oh, well, that's what allows me to experience God, that's where I have the experience. Oh, and don't think that the experience was worth any less. That's all I have to say. Thank you.